So, this is Doug Heiser interview. All right. So, what made you interested in animals? Like, when did that start?
I grew up in Santa Fe, Texas, and it was pretty wild back then with only a few thousand people. And from the back of my house, you could go for 5 miles hiking. And there were little lakes out there, there were canals out there, so we had everything. Coyotes, bobcats, nutria. We even had red wolves, which are now extinct.
Okay.
And if you read my book, The Honeybee Girl, there's a part in there where the first time I actually, by myself, saw red wolves come down to drink, and it was a magical moment. And so when I saw red wolves hung on barbed wire fences on the ranches, that people would just kill them.
Right.
Well, they're gone now. You know, they only exist in a little island off the Carolinas. But because I was around nature, and because I didn't play video games,
Right.
There wasn't any video games back then. I probably wouldn't have played them anyway. I was either playing sports at school, and I would come home, and I'm going to catch everything that moved.
Right.
I'm gonna shoot stuff. I was a hunter, and if I could catch, if it was an armadillo, I'm bringing it home. If it's a possum, I'm bringing it home. My dad would build cages like chicken coops for the animals. I had my own little zoo. I mean, I was just into it, everything I could catch with a net or however I did it. I mean, I crawled in a ditch for 30 minutes to sneak up on one of those great white egrets, those white birds, just to catch one of those, and I caught it. And those things are dangerous. They got dagger beaks, and I'm like, you don't think about that when you see the bird right there, but try to catch one. They'll beat you with their wings and their claws. You got to hold on to the beak and the feet. Anyway, so I was always into the animals, and my dad would draw them. And he wasn't an artist, say like me, like professional, but sometimes when I was young, he would draw. And so he would draw animals mostly, quail, catfish, whatever, and he'd do paintings. He did a painting of an elk, and back then I just thought it was amazing.
Right.
So those two things I got interested in. And my grandma would always call me up, because we only had like 4 channels on the TV. On Channel 8 on PBS, there's an animal show, Mutual Omaha Wild King, turn it on. So she would never let me miss the animal show, so I watched them.
Oh, that's awesome. I was reading your website, and it said you didn't want to hunt animals anymore.
Right.
So you decided to draw them or take pictures of them. Did stopping hunting change your maybe dietary feelings as well? Like maybe did you go vegan or?
No, it did not.
Okay.
Hunting animals, I probably stopped hunting animals in my later teens.
Okay.
I kind of was like an event. So my dad got me a shotgun when I was, 13 or 14 or whatever. And we'd go rabbit hunting or shoot squirrels or a lot of birds. And I would shoot whatever birds. Well, we caught a hawk, and it had a broken wing. So we put it in a chicken coop, and we were trying to nurse it back to health. So back then, not like now, but back then when the migration came through, my whole back pasture would be like robins.
Right.
I mean, thousands upon thousands. Not now, like you have 10. Thousands of robins. So they're everywhere, coming through. So we would shoot the robins to feed the hawk.
Okay.
And he would eat the birds. Whatever birds we shot, the hawk would eat them. So that we were doing it for a reason.
Right.
But then one day I was out hunting, and I saw this black bird, kind of like the ones you see in the parking lots, a grackle. I thought it was a grackle. That's what they're called. And so I shoot like a scatter shot. So I shot into the bush where I saw the grackle, and I hit it, killed it. But when I got up to the bush and dug in there, I had killed 3 birds with one shot, and they weren't grackles.
Oh.
They were groove-billed Annies, which I haven't seen since here. They're in South Texas, way south, and in Mexico and Central America, but they look similar except for their beaks kind of looks like a parrot.
Okay.
So here I was killing a strange bird I'd never seen before, and I'm like, why did I kill these 3 birds? This is stupid. I shouldn't have killed them. So I'm like, why am I even killing birds?
Right.
Why should I be killing? So I quit hunting. Still got that same shotgun.
Oh, okay. So have any of your photos been published in National Geographic?
Well, if you see the photography, I have to tell you, 99% of it is my wife's.
Okay.
Because when we go on safari, my wife has the big cameras, I have the smaller camera. I don't want to miss stuff, so I'm taking pictures too. But most of the time, it's her photographs.
Okay.
Now, all her photographs from Africa, Australia, Brazil, wherever, Galapagos, that's where I get my reference photos from to do my art.
Okay.
For example, Leopard's Inn just won an award, which is a leopard walking away and there's foliage. Well, in Africa, when the leopard got underneath our truck, We're waiting for him to come out, but he was like the shade.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
finally the leopard comes out. Well, you're in the Serengeti where the leopard was. It's just a sea of grass, as far as you can see.
Right.
So the leopard's walking away in the grass. So my wife said there's some nice shots of it. And so I said, I got to paint this leopard. I paint a lot of the memories, from these safaris. And so you don't want to paint just a leopard in a sea of grass. That's fairly boring.
Right.
So I always add stuff, whether it's from my imagination or from other photos. Like I made the tour guide stop in Africa. Stop, wait, come here. He thought I spotted another animal. But it wasn't. It was a torn up tree that elephants had torn up, but it was twisted and mangled, and it was just cool looking tree. I took a picture of it. So I used that tree in the leopard scene. So I researched native foliage and flowers, put those in. So I make the whole scene way more interesting. So I might use 4 or 5 different reference photos to create one image that I use my wife's reference photo for. And sometimes I might have to look at 4 or 5 of her photos to see different things that I'm changing. So that's the thing about the photographs.
Okay.
And so she's won awards and had them in shows,
Okay.
just like I do with the artwork.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What was your favorite place to travel and why?
Well, Africa.
Africa?
Yes, I've been there 4 times.
Okay.
And so before the pandemic, we went to Africa every other year.
Okay.
So a year we didn't go to Africa, we'd go to Galapagos, or we'd go to Australia, or Nepal, or the Amazon, or the Pantanal, or Alaska, wherever, Costa Rica. But Africa we always go back to because there's nothing like it. Once you go to Africa, you're spoiled to all. If you're a wildlife person, you're spoiled to all the other animals.
Right.
Because the Serengeti is like nothing else. I mean, you can't go wrong. The first trip to Africa was Kenya in the Masai Mara, which was amazing. But the second trip was to Serengeti.
Okay.
And it was like the Masai Mara on steroids. It was like, wow. It's like every day, all day long, you're seeing amazing things that you've never seen before. And even if you've seen 1,000 elephants, another one's still cool.
Yeah.
And the drama, things are happening. Hyenas are taking down a zebra. I mean, there's so much going on right there in front of you. Lions are stalking warthogs, hiding behind the truck of your vehicle to ambush a warthog. I mean, stuff's going on. It's not like going birding around here.
Right.
You see birds. You might see them catch a frog. Or, things happen, but not like in Africa. There's just no comparison. Galapagos is an amazing trip itself because you can get so close to all the animals, but they don't have the big predators and the big, monster animals like hippos and rhinos and elephants and things like giraffes.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's Africa, and the people, the Masai Mara people. They're just awesome. They're just it's amazing people in their villages, and they work in the camps, and they're just their accent, the way they talk, the way they think, they're so different than Americans. It's like they have like 5, 6 wives.
Yeah.
And the people are just super friendly, and they're always happy, and they're singing and dancing, and they don't need much. They still live like primitives. They live in houses made out of manure and mud and sticks, and they can start a fire in 5 seconds. They need to go on that show Naked and Afraid because those people can't start fires.
Yeah.
But these guys, they'll do it right there. They start it fast. But yeah, they live off of milk and the blood of the cows and chickens and eggs, but they don't do any agriculture. They don't eat vegetables, and they live really old, and they don't never get sick. And these people are all thin.
Wow.
All of them. There's no obese Masai Mara people.
Right.
The Maasais. There's no. So you're like, there must be something to that.
Yeah.
How are they so healthy? They don't have doctors out there. They live really old. You can't tell their ages, and they're just eating those basic things. And like I said, I don't eat vegetables. I've never eaten a vegetable in my life. I don't eat any. I eat potatoes and beans and all the meats and seafoods and all that, but no vegetables. I don't eat it. I've never eaten a salad. I've never eaten a hamburger. I've never eaten a hot dog because I don't eat bread. So those people are doing something right.
Right.
And they're cool. They made me a pizza.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we were in the camp, and they didn't even know what pizza was. They never had a pizza. They're living in primitive conditions. Let me tell you. So the guy said, "What is your favorite food?" They want to make us food, make us. So I like pizza. So I had to explain it to them. So they showed me how they roll out like a bread kind of thing. I say, you take that and you put like the red sauce on it, and you put meat on it and some cheese. And they got the cheese from the goats. So they made me pizza. Didn't taste like any pizza I've ever eaten before, but it was great. It was good. It was a pizza. I liked it. So yeah.
Okay.
Africa's amazing.
Okay. And this one I'll get random shots of the artwork when we're done. But So this is next section will be about artwork. So what artwork are you currently working on, and where will it be displayed, and what's the occasion?
Okay, this is a big question. My show just ended last month in the big gallery where I had 101 pieces of art. That was watercolors, scratchboards, inks, acrylic paintings on canvas. Big show, sold over 20 pieces. Very, very fun show. Really cool. So the big show is over. I'm doing a lot of public art now. The Turtles from Galveston and the Heron Project, and the League City traffic boxes, and I'm doing murals. In Galveston, I have a mural to do at the Sunshine Center, which has a mermaid on it. And so those are all public work. I just finished a bunch of murals for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and Brazoria National Wildlife Refuge. One of those is inside the Education Center. The other one is the sign at Cannon Lake with the fish on it, which is a new refuge. And the other one is for where they raise monarch butterflies and release them, called the Milkweed Hut, which has the butterflies and the whole process on that painting. So that's the kind of stuff that's going on right now. Also, my Ocelot ink piece just qualified. You might have read that. It just qualified for the Artists for Conservation Festival, which I've qualified every year, 2019, 2020, 2021, and now 2022. And I just got in the society in 2018.
Okay.
So Artists for Conservation is the top 300 wildlife artists in the world. You have to be juried in to become a member. And once you're a member, part of your proceeds of what you do goes to conservation efforts. Like I donate a lot to the Owl Conservation Society because I do a lot of work for Audubon here in Houston, where I painted all the backgrounds in the raptor cages. I don't know if you've ever been to Audubon Houston at the Raptor Center, but they have ambassador birds there, red-tailed hawks, kites, vultures, lots of owls, and they have all these big cages, flight cages like that big. Well, I paint the backgrounds to make it look like it's real. So I do that for free.
Okay.
So when I'm doing conservation stuff, probably 1 out of every 3 is free. Like me and my students painted the Namibia cheetah mural and donated that to the Namibia Cheetah Conservation Society, which is run by American, but it's in Namibia, and then they auction it off and make money.
Okay.
So I'm always doing stuff like that.
Okay. So I saw that you've written a whole lot of books.
Yeah, don't ask me how many because I don't know the exact number.
Which one is the most meaningful for you, and can you tell us what it's about?
Well, The Honeybee Girl is the most meaningful because it's semi-autobiographical. It was published in 2006. It became an Amazon bestseller when it came out, and it still sells. Every month I get royalties from Honeybee Girl. It still sells. It's popular. And it doesn't have anything bad in it, so 11 and 12-year-olds can read it, all the way up to old people.
Right.
The most highlight of the book is a kiss. I mean, but it's a coming-of-age story about a kid growing up in a wild Texas Gulf Coast town, and what went on in the 70s in that 1 year of his life where he fell in love with a new girl that moved into town from somewhere else and never told her. And what all happened in the ramifications of that throughout his life and then looking back. So that's what that book's about. It's like I said, it's still the bestseller. Do I think it's my best book? No. Do I think it's my most appealing book to everybody? Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I've written way more complicated books. Last 2020's 555 epic fantasy. It's it was like I said, it's epic. I mean, it took me years and years to write it. You know, it's like everything I've ever watched and thought of all combined through my imagination into this thing with monsters and magical powers and teenage heroes and another world and how they go back and forth between this world and that world through a book and all this stuff that happens. Anyway, it's just, people that everybody reads it likes it, so hopefully it will take off. I don't know. I think my best book, 2 of my best books are not published yet. One of them I was hoping to come out this year, but it's kind of getting delayed. But it's an adult slam bam rambunctious wild romp through South Texas with some. Have you ever seen Raised in Arizona?
Yes, I love that movie.
Okay, the book is written in that flavor.
Okay.
My 2 main characters are dumbasses.
Yeah.
And they live in a trailer and think wrestling's real, and their mama left them the trailer, and they live in a little small town of about 100 people, and their childhood friend is a stripper,
Okay.
and she goes missing. And there's a serial killer out there kidnapping strippers.
Okay.
And they find their bodies later. And they feel like the police aren't doing enough. So they just start, they're gonna solve the case, they're gonna find her. And they start teaming up with odd characters around the town. Like this
Right.
guy named Louis Frum, who's this hermit, lives in the woods and eats possums. He has all these cages full of wildlife that he eats.
Right.
He wears overalls and no shirt, beard, he's got a still. They team up with him, and he knows this other guy that's a dwarf named Phil Greco, and he's missing a finger that he lost when he used to work for the circus. The lion bit it off, but he's a crazy little character. Anyway, they start getting all these odd characters, and they've decided that the cartel is doing it.
Okay.
So they know that the cartel owns this big ranch. So they buy this old beat-up Ford truck, and they weld a Gatling gun on top of it, and they're going to storm the cartel.
All right.
Because they want to get their friend back. Of course, they're all wrong, but crazy stuff happens, mayhem happens. They have run into a motorcycle gangs. I mean, it's crazy, funny, very offensive, over the top, adult humor.
Okay.
So that one's coming out, and then my best book of all time, which you might have seen it on Facebook sometimes. I'm working on it now, because that book's finished. It's called Kyo, K-Y-O.
Okay.
And it's my prehistoric novel. And you're probably going to cut all this out, but anyway.
Oh no, this is perfect.
This,
I'm enjoying this.
Kyo, in 2005, I was sitting in a barbershop about to get a haircut, and I picked up an old National Geographic, and I started reading it, and it had an article about Rinca, Flores, and Komodo Island over there in Malaysia. And it was all about the discovery that National Geographic has made in this cave of 30 human skeletons and pygmy elephant skeletons, and they nicknamed them hobbits because they were only 3 feet tall, these prehistoric people.
Okay. Oh, I remember that story.
Do you?
I've heard that about that species.
Okay.
Yeah,
So, in my mind, that story never got out of my mind.
yeah. Uh-huh.
So a few years ago, I'm thinking, I'm going to write a novel, and I'm going to base it, I'm going to create a whole world, a whole culture, I'm going to recreate how it was for those people.
Right.
But I'm going to make it a Dances with Wolves kind of thing. So I create this island, it's on Rinca Island, where Komodo dragons live. And if Komodo dragon is the top predator on the island, 3 feet people got to be scared because they're food size. So I made my people live in tree houses, and they fished off the sea, so they became shark fishermen. So I researched shark fishing in the Philippines, how they use this shaker, and then they beat the shark, and they lasso it, and they beat it and drag it into their canoes. So they became shark fishermen. They also, remember the pygmy elephants? Well, I have pygmy mastodons.
Okay.
And they use those for milk. They have herds and everything. So that's their culture. So then I had to create my characters. Kyo is the main character, and he's different than everybody else because he's 4 feet tall. Everybody else is 3 feet. So his father comes from an unknown origin from somewhere else, and he doesn't know his backstory. So he's my main guy. He's a great shark fisherman, and I don't want to tell you the whole story, but eventually he gets swept out to sea because he wanted to get a stingray stinger to make a spear to kill a Komodo dragon, and he killed a sea turtle to make a shield. So he's the first person that ever made a shield and made a spear. They were too primitive for that.
Right.
So he's smarter than everybody else because he wanted to impress this girl. Well, the stingray drags him out to sea, and these people are not seagoing. Like in Moana, they would never go seagoing. Okay,
Right.
They don't go past where they can't see land. Well, he gets knocked out in the boat with a storm, and he ends up on another island. And there's other 3 feet tall people. They find him. Now there's no way he's gonna ever get back.
Right.
So, but he's got all this stuff to do, all this unfinished business. So he gets to this other island, and there's a girl there, of course, but he's still in love with this other girl. And then he makes new friends. It's like Dances with Wolves.
Yeah.
Okay, sort of like that. And I didn't consciously think of that, but as I was writing, I started thinking, making some connections. But it's not, identical. It's prehistoric.
Yeah.
And he has to go on a rites of manhood, where he got to go on a hunt by himself and kill the biggest thing he can to bring it back. The bigger thing he brings back, the more great of a warrior he is. And he gets chased by a mammoth, and the saber-tooth tiger almost gets him. And on an accident, he kills one of the Megaloceros, which is the giant elk with the moose-like antlers. It was an accident, but he killed it, and so it's like, wow. And then these jackal dogs, I picture them as African wild dogs, but bigger. They start to try to take his kill, and so he fights them and runs them off, and he kills one. but he killed a mom and he found out she had puppies. So he brings the 3 puppies back. So now I have to figure out how did primitive people domesticate the first dog.
Right.
So now they're raising these puppies and they're domesticating them, teaching them to hunt with them. All this stuff's happening. So I had to research all that. It's a ton of research.
Yeah.
And these novels, just like Midnight Jungle, I have to make glossaries, running glossaries as I'm writing. Because when I name stuff, prehistoric names or creatures, I make up the Crag-Ronish or whatever I make up. I might forget what I called it or how I spelled it, so I put definitions. So I have a running glossary.
Okay.
It might end up 10, 15 pages. The Midnight Jungle glossary is pretty big.
Is it?
And so Keogh's glossary is even bigger because everything prehistoric. Taracas, that's pterodons, flying.
Yeah.
They're called taracas. And then there's another variety called roracas, which are Archaeopteryx with the feathers.
Mhm.
They're on a different island. So I'm using research to make things realistic, but I'm using prehistoric creatures. And each island has its own different prehistoric. I don't have dinosaurs running around.
Right.
I do have pterodactyls, but that's about it because they survive because they can fly. Everything else is Ice Age stuff, mammoths. They call the saber-toothed tigers the fire eye gods. And they're big, like big as a caper, the ones I got on this one island. But they're not on every island. Like I said, his island only has Komodo dragons and pygmy. It's a different island. Different islands have different things.
Okay.
And right now, a lot of stuff happens, but there's right now they're at like almost 300,000 pages already.
Wow.
And I'm probably 3/4 of the way through.
Okay.
Well, I've been writing for years, and right now they're on an island where there's a giant nautilus shell on the beach, probably 20 feet high. It's massive, and the tentacles are all like this, and it's attacking these people. And so they pull up in their ocean going. He don't know the ocean, but they meet up a guy and all this stuff that knows how to navigate. Anyway, so they end up on this island, and they see attacking going on, so they go to help them. And these people are like monkey people.
Right.
And they can't speak. And they're like a hive.
Mhm.
All their brains are linked.
Okay.
But the only way, you can't communicate with them. But there's a human there, named Dre Lankus, and he's been there for, accident got him there, and he had to stay there, he didn't know how to get off. So he's lived with them all these years, so he taught himself how to sign language with them.
Okay.
So that's what he can communicate to all of them. He's like their high priest, but they have a queen bee, like this big, huge, heavy girl of them, kind of like King Louie in the Jungle Book,
yeah.
but it's a woman, and her mind is linked to all of them, and she can command them all to do whatever.
Okay.
Anyway, so they're there right now. That's where the book is. I've left out a million parts, but it's my favorite book of all time because the story is awesome. Because
Yeah.
it's Moana, it's Dune, it's Dances with Wolves, it's Life of Pi, it's all this stuff.
Yeah.
Just all mixed in and creating this story. Different influences just popping out, It's
Yeah.
like, and there's there's a bad guy that like his rival on the old island, and he's the one that got rid of his best buddy, and he wants to get back to have revenge on that guy because he wanted like the same girl, but that guy thought he was going to rule the whole island, but then the girl, she's one of these women that's so beautiful that they just use you and throw you away.
Yeah.
She never really liked Keogh. She just like abused him. You okay with listening to
Yeah,
this?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so she would always just fake love him,
Uh-huh.
Same thing with the other guy. So when the other guy took over the whole island, when Keogh was gone,
Mhm.
once he took over the whole island, she took it over from him.
Oh.
Because she had all these little spies. And she has a lady boy, he, she, whatever, that's her best friend named Decini. Really beautiful, but it's a guy.
Uh-huh.
But she uses him to have all these little sparrows that go out and get all the information. So with blow darts, she took over Ramo's whole army, the whole island, in one day.
Wow.
And she now has him tied to the bottom of their building where she keeps her camp and all her queen stuff. She has him tied like a naked dog. People just spit on him and throw food at him, and he's all humiliated. He was just, she's turned the tables on him.
Okay.
But yeah, I still got stuff in store for him. And of course, there's shamans who think certain things are magic and prophecy and all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty cool.
Okay. I'll definitely have to check that out.
Done a lot of illustrations too. So there's a lot of art of it on my Keogh Facebook website.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm always drawing stuff to it.
Okay. Can you invite me to that page? I'd love to
Oh,
see
it's
it.
public.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. All my books, not all of them, but like maybe 5, 6, 7 of my books have Facebook pages.
Okay.
Honeybee Girl, Montana Mist, 10 Secrets of Love, That's a really popular one. Kehoe has a page, even though their book's not published yet. Tropical Calypso, Wink Eye Creek, they all have Facebook pages.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll definitely start liking those pages.
they're in a tropical rainforest, which is full of wildlife. How can you not figure out? I think the show. I'll tell you right now, off the record.